Hey, Dorian Martin here, your health and resilience coach. And today we're going to talk about the basic recipe for emotional freedom technique. Yay! So basically, I wanted to let you know that this is something that you can't really do it wrong as long as you're tapping on the different tapping points, because you're affecting all the meridians. And so sometimes the changes are subtle, and we're also going to have another video for you to watch for that talks about how to know what's working and what to do if you feel like you'd like to have more of an impact or speed up the process. So let's get down to it. Let's talk about the 5 steps to the basic recipe for tapping. So the first step is to think about the thing that you want to address during your tapping session. So as I mentioned, it could be a physical condition, a health condition. It could be a disturbing thought, anxiety, depression. It could be a limiting belief. Maybe you feel like you're not worthy, or maybe you could tap on a phobia. You can tap on a craving, an addiction, or you can tap on some kind of, incident that causes you a lot of stress when you think about it. So once you just determine what you want to tap on, then the next step 2, is to think about what the subjective unit of distress is. What that means is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how disturbing is this thing that you're going to be tapping on? Is it something that is just sort of uncomfortable, or is it something that's causing you to really get anxious? And, it seems kind of subjective as you start tapping, when you start numbering it, but you'll get used to it. Just follow your instincts and just pick a number, because what it does, the subjective unit of distress, otherwise also known as SUDS, as in soap suds, basically, when you pick the number, then you can start gauging if it's going up or down. So initially, don't get too wrapped up on what the right number is. If it's more towards the stressful side, causing you anxiety and causing you to get really triggered, then it's on the higher end of the scale. And then if it's sort of like, it's kind of disturbing, but not really sending me over the top, could be maybe 3, 4, or 5. So you'll get used to the scale as you work with it. But essentially what it's meant to do is to help you figure out whether you are improving, or if it's your stress levels are going in the wrong direction. A reason why the SUDS is so important, especially with practitioners, is in EFT, there's something called the apex effect. What that means is, when you're working with energy and something's out of balance, when it gets back into balance, it feels like nothing happened. So often what's going to happen is, during a EFT session, if you don't determine ahead of time how impactful this thing you want to tap on, how much it's affecting you, then after the tapping sessions, sometimes because feeling back into balance doesn't feel different, and you might think, it didn't work. But when you start thinking about the level of distress that you experience when you think about the thing that you want to tap on, you can see progress. So you're getting rid of the apex effect and understanding what to do and how to adapt based on your tapping session. The other thing that's really helpful is, once you determine the SUDS, is to think about what success looks like. For example, if you're tapping on a phobia, like for example a spider or a fear of spiders, then maybe being able to walk by the spider as it's dangling and staring at you and not being triggered, that would be progress. Even better, maybe you can grab a jar and somehow get that spider into a jar, tap it, and free them back into the wild. That is progress. So think about what would be an example of success as you're tapping. So the step 3, after determining what you want to tap on and then figuring out what the SUDS level is from a scale of 1 to 10 and what success looks like, the third step is the setup statement. Now with EFT, it's a form of exposure therapy. So the setup statement is made of 2 parts. So the first part is to create a statement to bring up the thing that's causing you the anxiety, pain, or distress, or whatever it is. So it could be something like, let's go back to the fear of spiders. Even though I have this fear of spiders, but you can fill in the blank. Even though I have this pain in my shoulder, even though I have this fear of speaking in public, even though I have this like ongoing depression, even though I have this chronic health condition. That's the first part. You're bringing up the thing, naming the thing that you want to address. Second part of the setup statement is an affirmation, something that kind of calms down the charge. So the Buddha had said that the cause of all suffering is not accepting what is. And so when you take the charge off and neutralize the thing that's causing you the anxiety, fear, or whatever the emotion or feeling is, then you're able to kind of get ready to release it. So your intention is to release whatever it is that's causing you that anxiety or unhappiness or whatever the situation is you want to address while tapping. So an example of an affirmation would be, I am ready to release this. I'm ready to be healed from this. A really common one is to say, I totally and completely love and accept myself, because it takes the charge out of the resistance. You're accepting what is. Now, what's really interesting is a lot of clients cannot say, I totally and completely love and accept myself, because, a lot of people really don't feel that way, unfortunately. So what you can say instead is, I'm willing to, or I'm open to the possibility of loving and accepting myself. Now, if that feels like too much still, then you can think of any other statements such as, I'm willing to release this, I'm willing to heal from this, I'm willing to let this go. So in the entirety of the setup statement, an example would be like the bringing up the thing you want to address, and then the affirmation. So even though I have this horrible, and be as specific as possible, even though I have this horrendous, over the top fear of those furry, furry, disgusting, hairy eyes and jiggly spider. Okay, I went over the top because I was freaking out a bit. Anyway, even though I'm super scared of the hairy, disgusting spider, it looks like he's about to lunge at me, I totally and completely love and accept myself. Or I could say, I am ready to heal from this and move on. So hopefully you get the point. So that's a setup statement. And there are unique tapping points that you use when you're doing the setup statement. So the setup statement, you have two options. One is called the karate chop point. So it's really the midpoint between the tip of your your pinky, and the base of the palm of your hand. So right in the center here is a karate chop point. So when you tap on this point is something that's helping you to release limiting beliefs. And so you want to tap on it, and you want to repeat the setup statement 3 times. Even though I have this horrible phobia of hairy, furry spiders that like to jump and lunge at me, I totally and completely am ready to release this. Even though I am so scared of spiders, and I get the creepy crawlies all over up and down my arms when I see them, I totally and completely love and accept and forgive myself. And I'm ready to heal from this. Even though just the thought of spiders makes my skin crawl and makes me want to leap out of my skin, I am willing and ready to release this fear. Okay? Now, another option for the setup is it's called the sore spot. So when you put your hand in the middle of your chest, it's where your fingertips are touching. And it's called a sore spot for obvious reason. It's because when you rub on it, it feels sore, it feels tender. In tapping, you can tap on both sides with both hands or with one hand, whatever you prefer. And so when you're using the setup statement with the sore spot, you just say it 3 times, just as I did with the karate chop point. Even though I have this horrible fear of spiders that give me the heebie-jeebies and makes my skin crawl. See, Buster doesn't like it either, my dog. I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have this horrible fear of spiders that makes my skin crawl and makes me want to jump out of my skin, I am ready to heal from this. Even though I have this really over-the-top fear of spiders, I am ready to release this phobia. Okay? So play around with this, see what works for you, because different tapping points have varying effects on different people. Maybe the sore spot will be your thing, or the karate chop point will be your thing. But that is a setup statement. And so that's step number 3. So first one, again, is to pick the thing you want to tap on. Second is to think about the scale of 1 to 10, the SUDS. And then the third step is the setup statement. And that includes bringing up the thing that causes the anxiety or whatever you want to address, and then the affirmation. Next step is to do the tapping sequence. And so for the tapping sequence, you want to, you can either use both hands or one hand. Either one works. And you don't want to tap really hard. I've heard people hurting themselves doing that, and you certainly don't want to do that during EFT. When I was a student of shiatsu during bodywork class, we learned finger pressure massage. It's kind of acupuncture with fingers, and I was told that you really just need the weight of a nickel to activate a meridian. So I hope that helps you. Really what you want to do is be able to feel the resonance as you're tapping. And on each spot, you want to tap maybe about 7 times. You don't want to get into a place where you're counting, but just get a sense that you're having the resonance and you're tapping maybe about 7 times on each point. And again, both hands or one hand, or either hand, whichever you prefer. So the first point is right here when you get the inner corner of your eye and trace it up to the beginning of your eyebrow, but you still kind of want to be on the socket, is the first point. And look for the PDF where I share the different tapping points so that you can look at as you're tapping, so that if that's helpful, then you can follow the tapping points through a visual guide in the PDF. And then here's the second point, which is the outer corner of your eye. Again, you want to be on the socket. And then the next point is right under your eye. There's going to be right under your iris, there's a divot on the eye socket, and you want to tap on that. And then the next point is right under the tip of your nose and above your lip. Right there. And the next point is right under your lip and over the base of your chin. And here you can use a couple of fingers, 3 fingers, whatever feels comfortable on all the points. Next point is a collarbone. So here you have the beginning of your collarbone here, and 1 inch below it, you can do both hands or one hand and tap the collarbone point. So you can see it's sort of like a question mark. I hope that helped you remember the basic recipe and the tapping points. And then after the collarbone point, you have a point right under your armpit. For the ladies out there, it's right where you have your bra strap, across from your nipple line. That's for both men and women. Okay. And then the final point is at the top of your head. Now, a lot of people feel like this is a silly point because you kind of feel like a monkey, but as it turns out, this is one of the most potent points because a lot of meridians cross from this point here. And, my mentor found that there was another point that's not common in tapping, that's actually right at the back of the neck where your neck and your shoulders meet. Because again, this is a place where a lot of meridians cross, and so it's a very potent point for a lot of people. So I like to add that in as I'm tapping with people as well. So as you're tapping these points, you want to speak a reminder statement. So for example, let's go back to the phobia of spiders. So it could be this fear of spiders, this phobia of spiders, this phobia of spiders, this phobia of spiders, this fear of spiders. If you like, you can do more to conjure up the emotion that you have around phobia so that you can tap it out of your system. So you can just say the reminder statement throughout, and that should be effective. Or if you'd like, you can start speaking a little bit more as you think about the spider, what comes up for you. I feel like it's just gonna lunge at me and bite me. I have this fear of spiders jumping out on me. I have this fear of that feeling that you get when they're crawling along your arm. You can feel the little legs kind of like just, it's very skin crawly feeling. Just go through and tap 3 times all the way around. Seems to be a magic number, or more if you like. And then inhale, exhale. And then the last step, number 4, after going through the sequence 3 times, set up statement 3 times, and then you go through the sequence tapping and saying the repeat or reminder statement. Then you assess where you are with your suds. So if you feel like you want to continue tapping, maybe it's gone from a 7 to a 4, then you go through and tap again. But the second time, what you can do is your setup statement. Remember, you can start at the side of your hand or at the sore spot. You can say, even though I still have this, whatever it is that you're trying to address, even though I still have this phobia of spiders, I totally and completely am ready to release this. Even though I still have this remaining phobia of spiders, I am so ready to let this go. Even though I have this fear of spiders, I am ready to put this behind me. And so then you go through the tapping sequence 3 times, and the reminder statement that you can use is this remaining phobia of spiders, this remaining phobia of spiders, this remaining feeling that they make my skin crawl, and I don't want to be anywhere near them. This remaining fear of spiders, this remaining fear of spiders. And you go through again, inhale, exhale after the tapping sequence, and then assess again where you are, and just continue that way until you tap it down to a 0. So that is the basic recipe for tapping. Hope it's helpful. And remember, again, I'm going to have a PDF so that you can look at the tapping points. And also, just because I think it's fascinating, and you might too, I'll have a write-up of what each of the meridian points does. And so that'll help you kind of feel like, as you're tapping to different points, your intention of what you're trying to release. And so happy tapping. Let me know how it goes, and I'll see you in the next video.